Welcome to this deep dive explainer. Today, we're really slowing things down. We're setting a deliberate, eerie, and frankly, a pretty somber tone as we peel back the decaying layers of what might just be one of the most tragic, multi-generational ghost stories in modern gaming. We're looking way beyond the typical jump scares to uncover the profound tragedy of a family that was completely cursed by their own malice.
Okay, let's quickly map out this family's chronological descent into madness. We'll start with their ordinary human origins, move right into the lethal poisoning night that changed absolutely everything, explore Granny's subsequent descent into madness, branch out to Slendrina and the vampire child, and finally, decode the terrifying events of Granny 2 and Granny 3.
Section 1. The Ordinary Human Origins, Before the Darkness.
Long before the dark corridors, the traps, and the heavy padlocks, believe it or not, this family tree started with Granny and Grandpa living a remarkably quiet, peaceful life. They raised a completely normal human daughter named Angelene. Now, as she grew up, Angelene entered into a pretty dark union, marrying a tall, incredibly mysterious man who would later be known to the world as Slenderman. Together, they brought a new generation into the world, a daughter named Slendrina. And Slendrina lived a perfectly normal childhood. She went to school, played in the yard, and deeply, deeply loved her favorite teddy bear. But it's exactly this normalcy that makes the tragedy so profound. It leads directly to our turning point, July 10, 1892, the day everything changes forever.
Section 2. The Lethal Poisoning Night, a Family Destroyed.
See, Angelene was secretly suffering from a deep mental dissatisfaction and very hidden, intense hatred toward her own family. She cooked a final family dinner, and she secretly laced the food with a lethal poison. Right there at the dinner table, the poison instantly claimed the lives of her husband Slenderman, her daughter Slendrina, and the rest of the household. In an absolute instant, the family was destroyed from the inside out.
Which brings us to a horrifying reality in this lore: corrupted souls. Because of the sheer, unimaginable malice behind Angelene's act and the sudden, brutal tragedy of their deaths, their spirits were completely prevented from finding peace. They were denied the ability to pass on. Instead, they were literally anchored to our world, forced to return as demonic, vengeful ghosts corrupted entirely by darkness.
Section 3. Granny's Descent into Madness, the Grief that Broke Her. Upon discovering what happened, in a fit of unimaginable rage and sorrow, Granny punished Angelene. She used heavy iron chains to lock her own daughter inside a secret room hidden behind a moving bookshelf, forcing her to suffer for eternity. And what makes this so incredibly brilliant is how the game mechanics actually represent Granny's rage. To free Angelene's spirit, you, as the player, must physically uncover the evidence of her eternal agonizing punishment. You have to discover that hidden bookshelf room, find Slendrina's old book hidden somewhere in the decaying house, and finally place it onto a lectern.
The tragedy just gets even deeper when we look at the teddy bear mechanic. When a player picks up Slendrina's old teddy bear, Granny's eyes immediately turn blood red. She chases you relentlessly. You see, this isn't just a simple game mechanic designed for a cheap jump scare. It is a deeply tragic delusion. Granny's broken mind genuinely believes that you are trying to steal her dead granddaughter's memory. She is violently protecting the very last innocent remnant of her family.
Over time, Granny and Grandpa lost their own humanity entirely. They transformed into immortal, hollow husks driven purely by madness, isolating themselves out in a dark forest. Their property is now protected by twisted manifestations of a family unit gone horribly wrong. The supernatural rot in the basement cellar physically mutated a giant spider to act as a guard dog for the lower levels. Grandpa, completely stripped of his humanity, coldly patrols the upper floors with a shotgun. And the most chilling part? They capture innocent trespassers simply to trap them into recreating the childhood games of hide-and-seek that Granny never got to finish playing with Slendrina.
Section 4. Slendrina and Vampire Child, the Spreading Curse.
In her wandering spirit form, Slendrina is tethered to abandoned cellars, dark schools, and hidden asylums just to guard sacred books of her family's dark magic. When players encounter her, simply looking at her directly causes instant physical damage and severe screen distortion. Again, this isn't just a random obstacle. It represents the pure, blinding malice of her corrupted soul, lashing out at the living.
This curse, it literally branches out like a horrifying family tree. Slendrina haunts asylums and schools, eventually marrying a dark vampire prince named Nosferatu. Together, they give birth to a pale demonic child who basically inherits the bloodline curse, wandering an isolated vampire castle to protect supernatural seals. Meanwhile, Angelina's spirit isn't at peace either. In the house of Slendrina, she roams free, but she is found weeping uncontrollably over the horrific tragedy she caused, or sometimes violently screaming to protect her secrets. The curse spares absolutely no one.
Section 5. The events of Granny 2, the Watery Fortress.
By the time we reach Granny Chapter 2, the family has relocated to a heavily fortified, watery fortress surrounded by a really deep moat. Their obsession with captivity has intensely escalated. They've got a giant prehistoric monster fish guarding the waters. They've built a fully functional electric chair down in the basement. The property is just littered with security cameras, helicopter parts, and heavy metal padlocks. These aren't just random puzzles for a player to solve. They are terrifying proof that Granny and Grandpa are no longer just hunting for sport. They are actively torturing victims, entirely obsessed with locking themselves away while keeping their captives permanently trapped inside their delusion.
Section 6. Granny 3 and the Loop. Grief-Fueled Pretend.
Moving to the third chapter, in this dim, candlelit environment, Slendrina's presence is tied directly to her physical teddy bear. If the player does not find it and return it to her crib, Slendrina will randomly materialize right out of thin air, trapping the player in place with her terrifying gaze while her grandparents close in for the kill. This specific mechanic is the ultimate confirmation of Slendrina's direct, physical tether to her childhood innocence. She is quite literally anchored to the toys she loved before the poison took her life. And this realization completely recontextualizes the entire experience. On the surface, the game reality is just a simple indie survival horror game with random spawn mechanics and item puzzles. But the lore reality? It's a grief-stricken grandmother forcing innocent victims into lethal games of hide-and-seek because her broken brain genuinely believes that if she plays the game perfectly, her long-dead family will finally be normal again.
Granny's entire life is now an endless loop of grief-fueled pretend. Just let that sink in for a second. Every single weapon she uses, every trap she sets, and every heavy padlock she places on those doors is not just an act of violence. It is an act of sheer madness designed to keep her twisted family delusion alive forever.
We have traced the genesis of this haunting from a quiet, normal human life all the way to an immortal, multi-generational nightmare of chains, poison, and corrupted souls. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this final thought. Is the true monster haunting this bloodline the dark, supernatural, demonic curse that corrupted their souls? Or is it the inescapable, crushing weight of Granny's unforgiving grief? Thank you for exploring this dark chapter with me. Until next time, keep seeking the deeper story.